Father was hoping that Frank would be the first lawyer in the family. Frank up and quit college, took the money we'd saved, and bought band equipment. Vince was just 16 years old, and he moved out, joined Frank's band. They live in California now. I don't get to see him very much anymore.
Welcome.
Welcome to our party. Don't you just hate my friends? If they get a hold of you, the celebration never ends.
I think musicians trying to make it in the music business have about as much chance as like those little cute little mice you see in the pet shops that are sold to be fed to snakes. They might make it into the snake's mouth, but that is not necessarily a sign of success.
So what are you guys doing out here today?
We're out advertising our band and, just handing out our flyers to try to, well, encourage the people who've never even heard about us to come down to one of our shows.
So each one of us will hand out, I don't know, 200-300 flyers out.
Maybe by the end of the day it could be 1,000, and so you just hope that, a few of those people might show up at the show.
I don't know, I think everybody here's got their own band.
In the record business, you're really mixing art and business. And the A&R man is the nexus. He's the guy that says this is good art or this isn't good art. And the company is not in a position to make that decision, so they put it to the A&R man.
I am the interface of the record company. I'm the one that says yes or no. Also, once the group is signed, I'm generally the one that says your record's failed or your record's very successful. Well, actually, if the record's very successful, a whole bunch of other people will tell them that.
Sometimes people are making music in an area where, because of the music they're making, it's just not going to catch on there. The audience just simply isn't there or not ready for them yet. So in that case, maybe you got to move.
I was on break from college, and it was the dead of winter in northern Michigan. I came out to visit some friends in Los Angeles, and I picked up this paper. I saw an ad, and I sent in a tape of my music to this production company.
And they loved it. They were crazy about it. And, they discovered us, and they wanted to record right away. So I had just gotten out of school, and I loaded up a car and, drove to California and just came to the big city.
I don't know why they had to move so far away to do their music. We have weddings and parties and such, just like anybody else.
I suspect that bands come to Southern California because they believe that these are centers of the music business and therefore will have an easier way into it.
There is this myth that when a band finally signs a dotted line and gets a record deal, that all of a sudden they're riding around in limos and first class and the record company's footing the bill. Completely false.
It couldn't have been much more, exciting the way it happened. I mean, we were living in a small town.
There's probably like 800 people live there.
Kind of like in the middle of, it was in the middle of nowhere, and nobody there really took it very seriously. Their attitudes.
Oh, you're writing your little songs. Isn't that nice?
They didn't really get, what you're trying to do. And then all of a sudden one day, you're coming to Hollywood and you've got a record deal, and what could be more exciting than that?
first started working with Frank and Vince, they had this recording deal with this big studio up in LA. And I remember we went up there for the first time, and the studio was really impressive. They had all this music equipment and gold records hanging on the wall and pictures of, you know, all these rock stars, and it was really cool. I think all three of us were kind of starstruck.
Coming, you know, from where we did to all of a sudden be in Hollywood, sitting in this guy's office, and he's across the desk, and he's holding our tape in front of him, and he's saying, you know, this is really incredible, this is really great.
Well, and you're looking over his shoulder as he's telling you this, and there's gold records on the wall.
Yeah, and it's a state-of-the-art facility, and Elton John's recording in the next room.
I mean,
and
it was impressive. Really impressive.
Coming from where we came from, there was just no precedent in our lives to compare it to.
The perception of Hollywood is that it's a place where you see celebrities at the coffee shop, where you're liable to go to the beach and find Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron out on the sand, where you're liable to run into the cast of Friends at the drugstore. In reality, Hollywood is a place where there are the same problems, the same social inequities, the same damaged human life as there is in every other major city in the United States, only because it's Hollywood and it's where the movie industry began, it's where the music business is, it all seems much more glamorous on the surface than it really is.
Well, I happen to live on Vine Street above Hollywood, which is a location I never thought I'd find myself at, and it's incredibly depressing. Homeless people, tourists, and if I was a tourist, I would be so bitterly disappointed I would, you know, get back on a plane the same day.
If you're in a band and you want to go out to Hollywood to make it, you think you're going to put your gear in the back of the van, get the guys in there and drive out to Hollywood, or put your songs in your bag and just come out. You know, there's a couple realities to Hollywood. There's the reality of if you have money, it's a beautiful place. You know, it's the place that dreams are made. And at the same time, it's a place where dreams are broken.
We finished the album, and all of a sudden we tried to call the studio, and the phones weren't being answered. We found out they'd gone bankrupt or liquidated or been sold or something, and so we found ourselves 1,500 miles away from home, and no tape and no deal, and time to start over.
The California music scene today certainly doesn't have the vitality it had 10 years ago, but since a large part of the music industry migrates to Los Angeles so that they can be both seen and heard, you still have a lot of new bands and a lot of creative individuals coming to this scene so that they can have their opportunity.
What time you guys go on tonight?
We're going to go on tonight at 11 o'clock.
There's two bands before us and one band after.
So after the sound check, we probably got about 3 hours to kill. So we'll just, I don't know, get something to eat, hang out.
I remember at the Musicians Union we did a rough estimate of how many players there were. There's about 30,000 drummers, 30,000 guitarists, significantly less bass players, maybe half that number, the same amount of keyboard players. Vocalists, it's impossible to determine. There's got to be 40,000 bands easy.
I've talked to bands in the Midwest that seem intent on that being the only way to make it. They come here, they get their contract, it all falls into place, they think, whereas really the best thing they could do is stay home and play music for real people.
When the studio closed up, you know, our deal evaporated, and you know, we didn't have jobs, and so we didn't have a lot of money, and reality really hit home because, you know, we weren't special anymore. All we were was just a couple more guys, you know, with guitars in LA.
We had to make a choice. We either had to go back home or get a day job. So we got day jobs, and that wasn't really what we came out here for. We came out here to be musical artists.
We can write, when you write the music, it's a good feeling when you're doing it at the moment and you're recording it, it's nice to listen to, and we're all sharing it and it's fun. But for me, I'd like to get it out to more people. I mean, you know, I think our music has something to say, and I think it's, for me, it's important. I'd like to get it out, and so getting a record deal for me is important. One of the things I find discouraging when we send tapes out is that you don't get a response. And I mean, it's not that I would mind, I wouldn't mind rejection. I just wish we could get some kind of response, because you can play for years and years and, you know, never really get a response from anybody in the industry.
I used to think when I was growing up and I was playing music that there was A&R guys and scouts out all over the streets all the time combing the backwoods for any type of talent. And then I was, you know, shocked to learn that that wasn't the case and that they're really not around that much. And I was angry at that, and I thought, well, that's their job. That's what they should be doing.
Robert, hi, it's Frank. Chuck, hi, it's Frank. Hi, Robin, it's Frank. Ron, hi, it's Frank. Vince, it's Frank. If you're there, pick up. It's about 7:30. Trying to get a hold of you. We want to set up doing some writing. Waiting for calls from everybody else to see what the schedules are. I should be here the rest of the evening, or do you just leave it on the machine? You're going out of town tomorrow. Friday's better for you, okay? Wednesday's okay for me. Yeah, it's Frank, pick up. Chuck can do it. I can do it. I think Vince can do it. I didn't really. But anyway, Friday looks good. You said Friday was good for you.
It was out of tune, so I took the little E string, right? And I started turning this. And the pitch wasn't going anywhere. And turning more. What the fuck? And I'm turning. And I broke it right here. Yeah. This wire stayed on here. Oh, that's good. I thought, well, that's funny. Well, I'll just tune the second one. So I'm on the B, right? And bam! I break that one. And I go, you know what? If it happens 2 times in a row, I'm doing something wrong. So.
That's what makes it hard. You know, you're working on stuff and you get some stuff that you really like and it's really special, and it's really depressing for me to look over in the corner and you see all these tapes stacked up and all these songs, and you know, sometimes I feel like all my children are in prison, you know, and there's just no. It makes it hard to go on and write more when what you've done and worked so hard on hasn't gone anywhere, you know. But then there's stuff that we're working on or developing that's really I'm really excited about. You know, I really want to see it done, and I think that maybe is what keeps me going. This is BAM magazine. It's a Southern California edition of it. It also is in Northern California. It's a pretty happening magazine. It's me. She's never seen this before, and she said, vocalist Frank ROGALA is a dramatic, captivating, and dynamic performer who held the audience spellbound throughout this hour-long set. So, I couldn't have written that better myself. I don't even know what's in this. This is Mean Streets. Oh, they did a review on our album. This is like one of the NC-17. Very strange. I don't know if I like it. The music moves us from some really seductive, groovy rhythms to some kind of slashy, distorted post-punk thing. This is LA Times. This is a review on the Hellhead cassette. Gave us a 3-star, which is pretty good. This is Factor X. NC-17, a cross between Led Zeppelin and REM, with a violin, saxophone, and 3-part harmonies. NC-17 has a very different setup, with a flair for deviating from the norm. It seems NC-17 could accomplish just about anything they set their minds or music to. I don't know where this is bizarre magazine, Intense magazine. This is the premiere issue, and they sent me a quote out of it. Basically, this is their review. Most of you probably have heard of NC-17. If you haven't, you're an idiot. Figure it out. Like it was like an address.
For unsigned bands, press is important to them in terms of putting together a package to show that they have fans or followers. Live reviews, reviews of tapes or cassettes or CDs that they've made themselves. It's all part of the puzzle. As to whether or not I, as an A&R person, am influenced by what specific writers write about unsigned bands, not particularly.
I lived in the sticks. I mean, there was not a rock concert for 200 miles, so the only way I even got to know about anything that wasn't on the radio was to read magazines. So to me, the magazines meant everything. I thought, you know, if you're printed in a magazine, you're famous, you're rich, you're successful, you're happening.
You can write a restaurant review, put a line around a restaurant, but there have been shows I praised to high heaven, the opposing critic of the other paper would praise to heaven. You go to the show, he and I are there, maybe 1 or 2 other critics, and that's about it. So you really doubt sometimes how much good we are.
I see Frank and Vince in newspapers and on TV, but they don't make any money. They can't even afford to have a family.
Well, when we first heard that Robert was going to be on Star Search, of course it's exciting. That's national television, prime time. We were all very excited. Besides, you know, it's our son who is going to be showing his talents and his abilities, and we were all so very, very pleased. And I personally was very excited.
The excitement of winning Star Search was amazing. Knowing that we were playing on national television, even international.
I loved it. I called all my friends and I told them my son is on television. He's in Star Search. Watch him. And then they called me back. They said, oh, he's going to make it to the top. He's wonderful.
Those contest shows, either magazine competitions or television Star Search things, I find utterly meaningless. In fact, they can work against you.
The only contest that ever caught my eye was one Musician Magazine did a few years ago, where I think they had Elvis Costello, Mark Knopfler, people of that ilk on the panel. With that, you think, well, if they like it, they know what they're talking about.
We at Musician wish to express our thanks for your participation in our contest. Use this vehicle as best you may to further your success in the pursuit of signing on the dotted line, and know that the quality of your songs has prompted Warner Brothers to join us again next year. A total of 1,962 bands competed. We beat all those bands. It's a lot of bands.
We sent a video of ours into MTV and entered it into a contest they have called Basement Tapes, and that's where the audience, you know, at home watches all the videos and they pick one that they think is the best.
Everybody I knew was watching. the hometown newspaper ran a full-page story, and everybody I ever worked with, everybody I ever went to school with, everybody I ever met was watching it. It was kind of a vindication. It was one of those things I'll probably never forget. Dear Frank, congratulations on your recent Basement Tapes show victory. We enjoyed having your clip on the show. Hopefully this exposure will have a positive effect on your career. If I can be of any further assistance, please do not hesitate to call me. I never called them. Maybe I should have called them.
I called them a couple times.
Did you call them? Oh.
So we were on MTV and we won the thing. And when you do that, you can get this thing called wildcard airplay where, you know, they'll just take your video and randomly play it every once in a while. And it wasn't happening, and you know, it's a pretty big deal. So we made some phone calls and we found out that the time that we could have possibly gotten was given to this new hot band that had just came out, and they were called Milli Vanilli. But I guess they deserved it. They were quite the group.
What does your fiance do? He's a musician. Really? Have I heard anything he's done? Probably not. You know, he's still trying. Well, that's great. You know, how long has he been at it? 10, 12 years? Really?
Well, I've seen a lot of relationships fail because women realize they're not the main priority. I'm an artist myself, and I realize artists have to do their art. I mean, what were you attracted to in the first place?
You know, I understand that passion, I understand that need, I understand that pulling, that, you know, it's hard to describe. It's more of a yearning. I mean, you can't ask someone to give that up, ever. Or even to diminish it, you know. It's there, and it's what makes them, like, the greatest person, you know.
As opposed to other artists, I think musicians are luckier because they actually have two arts to play with. There's the art of performing live and all the instantaneous magic that can happen with that. Then there's also a whole separate art to recording.
Spend a lot of time in here. This is where, when you're rehearsing, for writing, for recording, even doing photos, we even did a video in here. I mean, this is kind of our private world.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have band meetings in here. We stuff envelopes in here for mailings and stick on labels and everything.
This is like where we rehearse. This is over there is where we record at.
That's the studio.
That's the studio. That's the studio.
But when we're recording, it kind of takes over the room.
And then bring the camera back over here. This is Frank's garage.
Yeah, I get
that's
like
his storage.
I get like 4 feet. That's my garage. That's all I have. And actually, most of that is like band equipment.
So
There's like,
garage, rehearsal room, and then over there is a studio.
yeah, so it's a multi-purpose, you know, facility.
So it's night times, weekends, any free time that we have.
Holidays.
Holidays,
Vacations. Makes it hard to keep your relationships together with other people, because, you know, it's like, doesn't that be the time you'd be spending with another loved one?
Vince is, you know, has a day job and does the band thing at night, and any free spare time is spent in the studio or, you know, doing all kinds of work having to do with the band. So, I mean, it's like going out with any kind of a workaholic. You know, you're gonna start to lead separate lives. You know, and when you come together, that's great. It's kind of like dating someone who's travels a lot for business. They're just not around.
Well, I would like Frank to pay more attention to me sometimes. I'd like us to make the decision about what we're going to do on the weekend rather than what has to be done with the band.
But it's actually good because I think we're both really independent people. In some ways it works. But you do get lonely. It's easy to feel neglected.
I start wondering whether, you know, maybe it's something that we're doing or maybe it's something with the industry, because you start thinking if, you know, we've been doing this for a lot of years. A lot of years we've been recording and sending tapes out, and you know, we haven't been getting a response, and you know, maybe they're all messed up, or maybe, you know, maybe sometimes you wonder maybe our music just isn't as good as we think it is. And I mean, I think about that sometimes.
For me, the doubt for me isn't in the music or my ability or anything having to do with the creativity of the band, because to me, the test of that is when you're playing live and people respond to it, or somebody comes up to you and says, you know, how they really love this song, or to me that's when it's a success. The doubt for me comes from living my life in a situation where I have no control over where I'm going to go in the future with it professionally. I mean, whether someone's going to ever pick it up and listen to it, or whether I'm ever going to get a chance to have myself be heard outside of this garage or, you know, the clubs we play. And my self-doubt comes from wondering if I'm in a system that's like so screwed up that I can ever make it notice me or make it work for me.
I think if A&R guys could go back to their label with like a dog or a box of cookies or anything like that, they would rather, because they sure don't seem to enjoy or appreciate music much. Unfortunately, they need musicians to make their living, and musicians unfortunately need A&R guys to have anything that they would regard as a future in the music industry.
It puts a lot of pressure on. It puts a lot of pressure on people who are seen as the one way into a record company, the one way into a recording contract and a deal. And it's not a fair system, but it's not a fair world.
Kind of like what he's playing there. Do you hear something last?
I just thought the first half of the verse, it sounded cool. One time he like hit one note, it was kind of cool, and then the second half to kick into what he's doing.
So if I get you right around the downbeat there, you'll be okay? Recording for me is probably the biggest challenge, because you're trying to take the essence of what the band is and these 6 people and the whole energy and put it onto a piece of machinery. And it's basically the struggle of doing that that's fulfilling, because you're using your mind and the collaboration between all of us, and you're struggling against the odds to make it work. But when you're sitting back after you finished it and you're listening and you realize that you made it happen, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, there.
I'm trying to talk everybody into the band into, you know, just picking out a couple songs that we can all agree on and just send them out to the record companies and see what happens.
Yeah, the thing is that sounds like really easy and really simple, and in reality it's a lot of work, and it ends up being me doing it, and I end up being resentful and hating it and being really pissed off, and I'm not real crazy about doing it.
I don't think it's the amount of work that it is.
Yeah, because you don't do it.
To me, it's just a waste of money because nothing ever happens.
Well, I mean, nothing's going to happen if we just sit in this garage and you know, not take the chance and put our music out there.
I believe when a band sends an unsolicited tape or flyer to an A&R department, A, it'll be returned because a lot of people don't take unsolicited tapes. B, it'll be, you know, logged in and maybe listened to down the line. And C, by some fluke, an A&R person may take it with him, stick it in his BMW and listen to it and love it. That's probably one in, I don't know, 20,000.
I mean, at the company where I'm working, we're so busy with the acts that we have, we couldn't take somebody and do a good job for them. You know, but you feel and hear the passion in these people, and it's hard to say no, but if you say yes, you're not doing them a favor, because you know what? I don't have the time to listen to it. And a record label, it's the same. They're getting so many tapes that there just isn't the time to listen to it unless somebody has told you that this is worth listening to.
If you're an artist and you have access to somebody who's an attorney, they're probably the best ones, who thinks there's something in your material that warrants an A&R person hearing, then give that person the tape and let him hand it to an A&R person.
It's funny, most people hate hearing from attorneys. A&R people seem to rather hear from an attorney than they would a band. It's like they don't trust their own judgment, so the more people they can get in the shoot between them and the actual music they're supposed to be hearing with their ears, the better. And like whoever decided an attorney knows music.
With the vast number of artists that want to try to find access to a record company, they want an easier or a quicker or more reliable route to getting through to an A&R person. There are a lot of people out there, be they attorneys, be they production deals, be they managers, be they whatever they call themselves, who promise an easier route.
This lawyer had requested a retainer of $5,000 for him to send out 13 tapes and letters and bios to his selected friends in the industry.
I can see why an artist or a musician might find themselves susceptible to the lure that these sharks put out. It's because they don't get the feedback from an A&R, from people in the press, that they probably well deserve.
At the time, you know, that we got hooked up with this guy and met with him, he seemed like he had a lot of connections, and we didn't really have that much else going. And you know, it was the kind of thing, all right, it's a bunch of money, but what else have we got to do? So we came up with the money, and guys started avoiding our phone calls, and I don't think we got anything out of it.
He'd given us his address, and we were supposed to send him a tape and some materials. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. And one day I happened to, it was a couple of days after we were going to send it, I happened to be driving down in the area. It was this Hollywood Boulevard address, like Suite 520 or something like that, in this Hollywood Boulevard building. And so I went there, I go in the building, it's this really old, kind of falling apart building, and I go up to Suite 520, and it's this March of Dimes office with a bunch of old ladies working in there. And apparently that was the right address, but then he was just using the address. Yeah, they took it.
So the March of Dimes corrupted this guy's mail.
I don't know, maybe his mom works there or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that guy was something. We're gonna be big stars.
Got a buzz hunt.
think there's a lot of people who send tapes in who spend all the time in their bedroom or their basement or their garage making tapes and becoming far too obsessed with the demo tape.
It's not a question of can you crack that barrier, can you get them to listen to the tape. They'd be much better off if they put their energy into playing live, building a following, and letting people discover them. We'll find them that way.
We don't want to cut anybody else's time short. So we love you. Thank you. We're going to come out and party with you. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Good night.
We've got a list of about 70 to 100 of the record labels, everybody from the really huge multinationals down to the little teeny labels, and everybody in between. And we'll send them out a mailing for the show, just like we do our fans. And a few of them, you know, we have their phone numbers. We'll leave a phone message or a voice mail. A couple of them will fax a flyer or two. So I guess they ought to know that we're out here, you know.
When you have your tape, and you have a gig, and you need to get some A&R people out there, what do? If you don't know anybody in this town, you go home. You know, the reality is that nobody's going to come.
If I go to Austin, Texas, would I rather be sitting in a hotel room or visiting 4 or 5 clubs? I'll take the latter. While I'm in Southern California, I would almost rather be at home than in 3 or 4 different clubs. It's my home. I chose it.
I don't know what you do to get an A&R person's attention these days. Maybe kill one of the Kennedys, but there aren't many left. Other than that, I don't know really how sensational you have to be to get their attention, because I don't think music does it.
Yeah, I got to work tomorrow morning pretty early. So, you know, it's kind of a common thing. You just play late and then work the next day and just hang out. So, unless you got any more questions for me, I'm gonna take off. You gonna go home with me? Huh?
It costs a lot more to live here than where I come from. So yeah, I had to find a job that was going to be supportive of me and cooperate with me playing music. But when you do that, you're not going to ascend the company ladder. You're not going to get an executive board position. You're not going to be the head salesman if you're out playing music every night.
I think we should send out a tape. I think it wouldn't hurt to send out a tape now and then send out a tape another 6 months.
It would hurt our pocketbook.
It would hurt our pocket.
Yeah. $700.
And the point being that you'd need to do it knowing that the people you're talking to, you know, the numbers and that sort of thing is what they're interested in.
It's like buying
That's
a lottery.
why you want to be able to communicate. Huh?
It's like buying a lottery ticket, though, right?
Are you willing to do that?
I don't buy lottery
Actually, I
tickets.
don't buy lottery tickets.
Okay.
You know what that's like? It's like writing a letter to your senator. You know, seriously, dear Bob, you know, I don't think that the wetlands here in my backyard should be moved because it really bugs me.
Right, you get a form letter back and a stamp signature.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's what A&R is. That's what these. That's.
So we have to like bribe them like we do the politicians.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just one more thing you can do.
It's a long shot.
It's like how many things can you do besides sit in this garage? Okay.
Hey, but if it's a $700 costing thing, that's exorbitant. If it's something that costs $50, then you can throw it out a million shots. Okay.
I'll buy that.
You still like that one?
I think that's pretty cool, though. I wish Frank would have worn a pair of pants that didn't have the crotch falling out.
Well, I got to show off my best side.
Well, then you should have turned around. I mean, it's hard for me to be the one to say it because I'm one of the ones who was in the photo, but just being objective as I possibly can on this, $400 is, we could put that towards a lot more
it's because you're in the picture.
Regardless, if we don't do any of the things we talked about, the band owes me probably about $400 beyond having anything in the bank. And if we could just kind of keep up putting a little bit of money at a time, it wouldn't be so painful when we do want to do something. But
I got about 50 cents here, I think.
Vince and I have been putting in about $100 about every month. Robin's supposed to be in charge of sending out memos and keeping track of it.
I did. I get no response.
Yeah, please send money. Who's going to respond to that? Huh?
No, we have to meet and talk and explain why we need money. It's not going to work from a memo, so that's dumb.
Here's the big question now. Who's got the money and how much is everybody going to put in?
November.
December, November.
You could do 100?
I would prefer not to do 100.
I prefer not to do 100 too, but
I can probably come up with 50.
All right, anybody got a checkbook right now?
Robert?
Deal with it?
I'm broke, boy. Literally, 100%, totally, completely deleted broke boy. I mean it.
Could you clarify? Hey, what? I think the word is depleted.
No, deleted. I'm no longer on the books.
After a while, it gets hard to justify to your family and friends because they see you spending all this money and going nowhere, and they think it's really that you're just wasting your money.
You don't get to get a new car. You don't get to buy lots of nice new things. You give those things up. So not only are you giving up time with this person, you're giving up any kind of material success.
I spend a lot more money on the band. It's because of the fact if we're up against the wall on something that I think we really need to do, and maybe the other guys just don't have the cash, I'll pull it out of my own pocket. But because of that, I lose a lot more money, and I write that off my taxes as, you know, it's a deduction, a loss.
Hi, I'm Rich Heaton. I'm here to represent Frank ROGALA and his band NC-17. We're in front of the federal building, and Frank is being audited. The IRS is seeking to look into Frank's band activities and various expenses.
There's postage, it's $382, photos, $450, tapes, $967, repairs, $675. Got all this money going out and no money coming in, and because of that, they want to take what is my life and put it in the category of a hobby and take away all the deductions.
A carpenter gets to write off his tools with no question. The 3-martini lunch for the lawyer, that's part of doing business. A musician goes in and buys guitar strings, and you try to write that off, and suddenly it's like, oh, you can't do that. This stuff's fun.
Get out of here, please.
I don't think I could explain logically why it is that I keep putting myself through this. I mean, for a sensible person, there's just too much humiliation to keep going through the punishment. But when I'm up on that stage and the band's kicking in behind me and the audience is with us, that is what makes it all worthwhile.
Sometimes things get worse before they're better. I think I can help bring you some better weather. I've been down that street in the past, and soon, but not too fast. And it can help to have a hand from us who cares. And I know it's tough to face the rain when you just try to keep away. I say, come on.
You put things off. You're waiting for the big break to happen, the deal and the house and the money and financial security, so you put off getting married and you put off having children. And then one day you wake up and you're 36, and there's still no record deal, and there's no kids, and now maybe you can't have any.
Initially, I think it was my wife that wanted to have a kid. And, you know, I was worried because a family really is a big responsibility, and I didn't want to let, you know, the music or the day job get in the way.
I don't have any friends who date musicians. I don't. You know, most of my friends are actors and actresses, and they're crazy enough. They don't need to be involved with another crazy person.
I've seen women put men in this position before. Sometimes I can tell from the very beginning there's going to be a real struggle here. Pretty soon the woman says, it's the music or it's me. They're going to lose every time.
I get to see my son about every other weekend. I have joint custody, so when we get together, usually we'll go to a movie, or he likes to go to the park or skate or something like that.
I think what a lot of women do when they're married to artists, whatever form of artist they are, is cope with it. Because they don't really think that they are a part of it.
I guess I just adjusted to the idea of giving up things to be in the relationship. So, I mean, it doesn't make it any less painful. But it's worth it. Sometimes.
Tonight's the big night where we're going to put our whole package together and send it off to the record companies. You know, everything from our press, and we got our new cassettes, and we're going to put them in these packages along with photographs, and just mail them out and
get famous and rich and be really wealthy and happy and have all sex all the time.
Anyway, I think it's a good idea. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, let's see what we got. Oh yeah. Look at that. Cassette. Looks pretty cool.
Tell me about each item as you put it in.
We kind of let the press kind of speak for us, so we just got all our awesome little press clips together, and the picture and the address and phone number.
It's a pretty simple package. I mean, it's only 4 items, 2 photographs, our press, and tape. You know, if they like it, they'll listen to it and call us back, and if they don't,
so always worked before, right?
Well, we'll do it again. My attitude is you got to try something. You know, I mean, if you don't send it out, they're not going to come knocking on our door. I mean, the only person that's going to come knocking on our door in the middle of the night is going to be the cops telling us to turn down. It's not going to be an A&R person.
A lot of people seem to think it's hip to not aim for a record deal now, to just kind of do your little thing in obscurity, and the more obscure you are, the hipper it is. But if you're an artist, you want to get heard, and for better or worse, the only canvas a musician has to get heard. happens to come with the record deal.
There is this myth that when a band finally signs a dotted line and gets a record deal, that all of a sudden they're riding around in limos and first class, and the record company's footing the bill. Completely false. Number one, when a band gets a record deal, everything that is now coming out of their pocket, because there's a word called recoup in a record contract. Everything from the cost to make the record, to the promotion, to sell the record, to the flowers delivered to the lead singer's band on his birthday. This all falls under a recoup. And this money is coming out of your pocket.
When somebody buys a CD for $14 or $16, the band on that CD is lucky to see $1 from it, but they don't see that $1 because before they ever get paid anything, first the cost of recording that album is subtracted, the cost of promoting the album, the cost of any videos. Basically every tool the record company uses to market that album and to make a huge profit on is charged against the band. No one is going to buy a blank CD. People go out and buy a CD or a cassette for the music that's on it, you know, for the artistry of the musician that is imbued upon it. Yet the artist is the last one to see a penny from it.
The music business is a funny business. When you think about it, it's quite interesting that the band, who is arguably an employee of the record company, as an employee is actually paying for the record that it's producing. Today, there are probably 400 to 500 major releases each year. Of those 400 or 500, no more than 20, probably closer to 10 will go gold. A couple will creep into platinum, and the other hundreds will, if lucky, get a second chance at another album, but won't be making any money to speak of.
It's possible that you can sell 500,000 albums or have a gold record and not be rich. In fact, you may not make any money.
So, again, you know, you do it for your art because, yeah, it's got to be, it's fun too. Yeah, the money situation is a lot bleaker and a lot harder than I think most people understand. And I think that, I guess, also maintains some of the glamour and the mystery of it, even though it really doesn't have much to do with reality.
You know, I've always thought that someday, and it was a soon someday, hopefully, that this would pay for itself and that I could quit doing what I do for work and that the music would pay for me to live and for the rest of the guys, you know, that we would all be able to support ourselves. And so, you know, I don't put away money. What I do is I put the money into the band. You know, that's sort of like that's my little stock, my stock market thing. NC-17. Down 15 and 5/8.
Well, there is that joke of, what do you call a musician without a girlfriend? And the answer is homeless. And it seems like families and loved ones and all those people have trouble respecting musicians because, you know, they come home about the same time the newspaper arrives and they don't have much to show for it. There's this whole attitude of, oh, you're playing music, it must be fun, which it is, yet at the same time that keeps your friends and loved ones from regarding it necessarily as the serious thing that it is.
When my parents wanted me to go to school, they wanted me to go to college, and I told them that that I didn't need to go to college because I was gonna be a musician. And my mother said to me something that I will never forget. She said, "You're never gonna be anything but a bum." And I lived that way for a couple of years. I followed her advice and was a bum for a couple of years, and have made something of myself. But what she said, I will always have a need to prove her wrong.
To see my son struggling to get ahead, and to see my friends' sons getting married and having families like my other children, I also want Robert to get married. And I also want him to have a child of his own. And it's so hard for me to see him postponing all these wonderful events because he wants to get ahead in music.
I've dedicated my life to music. That means I don't have a wife, I don't have a child. I have music. I create it, it comes from my heart. It is my child. And when I march my child out there to be seen by those who are in the music industry, and then recognize the fact that they aren't even acknowledging me. They don't have the time or the availability or whatever their excuses are. It's appalling. It could be painful.
A&R people bear the brunt of a lot of dissatisfaction and frustration, I'm sure. A musician will naturally feel that what they're doing will save the universe, will sell millions and millions of records. And when they're refused or turned down by an A&R person, obviously that A&R person is a moron.
I ask myself where I'll draw the line, when I'll be too tired of this to go on, or when it won't be worth investing the money in it anymore, or when I'll be too old. And I don't really have an answer to when that is, but I ask the question a lot.
So I think that reevaluation point is good. You really do have to decide, you know, do I have something to say and do I want to continue to say it against all odds, or do I maybe want to just have some of the comforts in life and kind of do this as a hobby? I think it's a very crucial, painful thing that a lot of people go through. I go through even as a writer. I mean, I don't think it's specific to the music industry, though it is a little harsher because it's an industry that doesn't let you grow old very easily.
The toughest question to ask is, when do you tell an artist that's been gigging around for years that hasn't got a record deal when to hang it up? I think you ask that artist, do you love playing your music, to 50 people a night? And if they say yes, then you never tell them to hang it up. Just tell them, keep gigging. You know, keep your day job, but keep playing at night. But if they say, I can't do it anymore because I really got to be a rock star, and there's pressure, then I'd say hang it up, because there's too much pressure. It's not happening naturally. It's not meant to be. They'll never get a deal.
Do you think Ron's really going to leave?
Well, he tells me that he's going to try to stay, or even if he has to leave, he's going to still stay in the band. So, you know, I'm not going to go out and look for somebody before. I mean, if that's what he says, I'm going to believe him. I'm not going to, like...
I think Ron's history, I think he's going to be
You can just tell. I mean, you can tell. You've been playing with, you know, we played with enough people. You can tell.
You can think whatever you want, but I'm not going to
go.
go out behind his back and try to find somebody to replace him if he says he wants to try to stay.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
As long as I can remember, I've needed to play. I mean, since I was in 3rd grade, I've needed to play. And I've pulled away from it a couple of times, but I always have had to come back to playing and being a musician. I mean, it's just, you know, music is what my life is about. Even my job that I do, my sales job, I sell music.
I moved out to Los Angeles, and 1 year turned into 5 years, and 5 years turned into 10 years. And the people who surround me, who surround us, you know, our family and our friends, they look at us and, you know, we're playing pretty much in the same garage with the same group of people. And, you know, they think that we're not going anywhere, that we're stagnant, you know, we're not doing anything that's even valid. And I mean, they don't understand the whole art of it, the whole need, the whole reason, I mean, the whole passion behind it. It, you know, because it's gotten to a point where it's something that we just have to do. It's not a choice anymore. I mean, we're just comes back to what are you doing it for? Yeah. I mean, we're just doing our thing. We're gonna, if we're in this garage, you know, a couple of years from now, so what? We're in the garage. We're gonna just keep getting together. We'll write our songs. We'll do what we do because that's what we want to do.
Our friends and family still think we're nuts. You know?
It would be nice to do it full time and actually, you know, not have to work day jobs, but oh well. Yeah, if that's the way it has to be, then that's the way it is. Maybe we're in the garage because given what else is out there, this is the best place to be.
Today was long, just like it wouldn't end. The night is here. It looks just like a friend. My eyes are
My name is Joan Worley. I'm a certified public accountant. I'm here today representing Frank ROGALA. He's being audited.